Well, for the SEC was going to win, right? This is crazy. Do you realize in the last 14 years, the College World Series champion has come from the Southeastern Conference?
Who was the last one that wasn't? Do you have that written? I can look that up.
No. The last four have come. This is the ninth title in the past 14 years. 9 in 14. So there were 5 years they didn't win. How about this, though? In those 14 years, just take a guess. How many different SEC schools were champions?
Say 5.
6. Last 4 in a row. So you go back. Vandy won it 4 years ago. Then Mississippi State. Last year Ole Miss. And now LSU. And it could have been Florida. So it still would have been 4 different teams. 6 different teams. 9 championships in the past 14. This was the 7th title for LSU, which makes them number 2 all time at 7, behind 12 from Southern Cal. So USC is pretty much in control still of that dominance. But lately it's been SEC all the way. Some people are saying this is one of the great World Series. I don't know if I buy that. That's one of the things I'll ask Tim Doolin right away. Because you had one really good game, 11 innings, 4-3.
Back and forth, too, high stakes in that regard.
Yeah, the pitcher from LSU ended up being, by the way, the most important player or MVP, however they call that title. Skeens is his name. But really, because he was great throughout. Hey, this LSU team was pretty amazing. Do you realize they staved off eliminations 3 times? 3 times they were in elimination games. And were able, this through bracket play, and were able to win this. And, of course, they had another one yesterday because the winner was winning, the loser was done. And this one comes, this is why I guess people are saying it was so great. You had the one game that was just on edge, 4-3. Then you got Florida 24-4, 6 home runs, crazy. Then the team that lost 24-4, that could have been humiliated, that could have had their heads down, and they fall behind 2-0 last night. They turn around and they score 18 runs, 18-4. They set the new record for the most hits in a College World Series, 24 hits, I think. Yeah, 24 hits. That's the most ever. I mean, what a turnaround. Like, after you lose 24-4, do you think you're coming back?
I think so.
Really?
Because you still have really good pitchers that you have left in the tank that at least you got to the day where they've had enough rest where they can throw yesterday. I don't know. I felt like LSU was the better team in that regard. But see, what you were saying is everyone's saying this is a great series. The first game was excellent. Absolutely was excellent.
Oh, yeah, I buy that.
24-3, the second game,
24-4.
24-4. If I'm watching one of those games and I'm a fan of LSU, I could turn that game off in the second or third inning or however, whenever it was getting out of hand at that point. I don't need to watch the rest of this. You can make that game way more compelling for the other side. So in that regard, the series absolutely could have been better than it was.
Well, I would say for perseverance, 3 elimination games down, and you lose 24-4, and 24 hours later, you beat a team 18-4. You get all those hits. I could say that because of the turnaround and history on both sides. I mean, what Florida did in Game 2 was historic, and then it is beaten, like in terms of hits, the very next night when you win the World Series in comeback fashion. And look, you just lost 24-4, and you fall behind 2-0 right off the bat in this game. And then they had a 6-run second inning. It was over. Over. Florida just couldn't muster anything. They had good pitching. LSU did. And it's amazing. It's also maybe the best team money can buy. I want to talk with Tim Doolin about all of that. And, of course, we'll talk about the new Memphis baseball coach, Matt Reiser. So Tim's going to join us final segment, as he always does, on Tuesdays. Little different twist here with TJ Reeves on vacation. And, by the way, I will be gone next week, but don't go anywhere because J-Mo takes over. We're bringing in a guy that I hope we have fairly regular conversations with. He is the sometimes sports columnist, a lot of time editor, and does long-form pieces for the Daily Memphian. Tim Buckley will join us at 10:25. Lots to talk with him about. He's really been like the Tiger football portal tracker. So he's seen all these moves. I'm curious to see what he thinks about all that. We might chat a little conference craziness with him. And I think he does some stuff with the Grizzlies as well. And there's what could happen here on Friday. You realize that Desmond Bain could sign a contract much like the one that John Morant signed a year ago. Will there be a clause in there that's a supermax clause? Because that's negotiable. In order to get that trigger, there's a fifth-year player option. Will he get that? I don't believe Ja got the Supermax trigger, did not get the fifth-year player option. So that's sort of up for grabs. Xavier Tillman got his deal yesterday. So $1.9 million for Tillman for next year because they had the option. The Grizzlies did. He averaged 9.7 points, 6.7 rebounds, 2.5 assists per game. That's pretty good for a guy with the minutes that he got, right? What is he considered, third or fourth string, right?
Yeah.
Unless there's injuries or load management or something.
Yeah, he was third this year for the entire season, essentially.
So ESPN did this projected of player values and use of mid-level exception. So you know what the mid-level exception is at this moment? Could go up with cap increases. But at this point, it's $12.4 million. And Tillman is rated as a mid-level exception value. So in other words, $1.9 million, $2 million, let's just say, or $12.5 million. Wow, what a bargain the Grizzlies are getting for this year. But Tillman will be a free agent next year. And so his money is set to come. But he'll be, I would suspect, very motivated. I mean, like $2 million is not chopped liver, but in that world, it is chopped liver. He'll be very motivated to get that $12.5 million deal for 3 or 4 years, set himself up totally for life if he has a good year this year, and I would suspect he would. So with all this in mind, I'm not even talking about cap because Bain could cost you $200 million over the next 5 years. You already got one of those with Ja. So you've paid Triple J. You're really invested in 3 guys, right? Unless, of course, you're willing to go over the threshold, which I believe Robert Pera is. He certainly can afford it. But here's what you got. So if you're really thinking about this being a championship team now or in the future, let's just take a look at personnel. All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
The guards, boy, you got to love the guards. So the guards now are John Morant, Desmond Bain, Marcus Smart, and Luke Kennard. That's pretty good, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
There you got a 2-time All-Star in Morant. You got Bain, who might have been the most improved player a couple of years ago, a guy who I think has the capability of, if he's not an all-star, close, all right? You got Smart, defensive player of the year, true leader, distributor of the ball. You can play him a lot of different ways. You can play him as a small forward. And then you got Kennard, who's one of the better pure shooters in the league. I'd say that's pretty good at the guard spot. You're pretty set there. And by the way, 3 of those 4 at least can play point if you need it. Not sure Luke could, but the other guys can. Then let's go bigs. Okay? So your bigs are Jaren Jackson Jr., Steven Adams, Brandon Clark, the just mentioned Xavier Tillman, and Santi Aldama, who I think is a really solid player. I think as a guy, let's say he's your 7th or 8th guy, he's a good player. He can stretch you. He can clearly shoot. He I think he's probably trying to gain a little bit of weight. I think he's a solid player, a solid rotation player. And then we throw in Kenny Lofton, who was just signed. They really signed him because they had all those injuries up front, and they needed bodies in case you had to have somebody for the playoffs. But he's a good offensive player. If he loses, 10 pounds or so, maybe he becomes a better defensive player. That's certainly his weakness. But, J-Mo, you would say those are pretty good bigs, right?
I would. My biggest concern in all those names we name is that I really don't see a 3. I think the closest thing I see to a 3 is probably, at least a starter, would be...
Whoa. So I'm going guards, I'm going bigs. Now we go to wings.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's where your 3
I jumped the gun.
That's okay. I like it when you challenge me. So let's go to wings. And this is where you go, what? This team aspires to win a championship? Here's your wings at the moment. Unless you get somebody who's really good in the mid-level exception. Here's what you got. John Conchar, Zaire Williams, David Roddy, Jake LaRavia. Those are not a compilation of championship team wings. That is clearly the weakness of this team. You look at the guards, you look at the bigs, you go, okay, this is the nucleus of a team that can contend for the NBA. Then you go to the wing position, and you really don't have much. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's more than fair. I would agree, and that would be my concern about signing Marcus Smart too. Is you don't really know about the 3 unless they know more about Zaire Williams than we do, which is very possible. Perhaps he was injured for the majority of last season, and that caused him to maybe not play as consistently on the defensive end as you saw in the previous year.
Well, they clearly have the flexibility, that 15th roster spot.
Right.
They clearly have
else.
a mid-level exception, that $12.4 million we're talking about. They have that position open in free agency to try and maneuver to get a 3, a wing player that is a guy that can shoot and play D.
And I've got to be honest, too, it might be Santi Aldama. He is a really good on-ball defender guarding 4s. Maybe that extends to the 3, too. They would know that better than us.
Maybe you move Marcus Smart to the wing. I mean, you could easily say, look, the guy, he was guarding Joel Embiid.
He was,
He can guard that position.
That was more of that mismatch for that particular scenario, but he was guarding him, and that is an excellent capability to have.
According to the beat writers of the Boston Celtics, they all said he can because his wingspan is so large that he can guard big men. So you're not, and if we're not saying Embiid every night, we're just saying guard a 3.
Right.
He's quick enough to guard the 3.
Or
he's
2.
clearly long enough to guard the 3.
Or a 2 in Bane, who doesn't have as large a wingspan, but is a very quick and capable defender, a little bit bigger as well. He could also guard the 3. So you have 2 guys flexible there. I see what you're saying. I could see that as well.
And honestly, so that way, if you wanted to start now, I have no idea because I think they're going to make moves, but you could start Bane, Morant, and Smart as your perimeter guys. 3 of those.
You could.
With Triple J and Steven Adams or Brandon Clark when he comes back or however it all works. I mean, it'll be Steven Adams to begin with for sure.
Because there was a time Dylan Brooks was also primarily playing the 2 before the Grizzlies drafted Desmond Bane.
That's true.
And he was able to transition. He's bigger, certainly, than Bane, but it's not to say Bane couldn't do it either.
And you know what? Zaire Williams, everybody was really at this point last year. Everybody was high on the guy. Oh, he's going to play summer league again this year. He's going to learn a little bit more. And he look at the way he finished that year. He's going to be a great player. And then
turn into Bane, people say.
Well, yeah, turn him into Bane, right? And then it obviously didn't work. Now maybe it is injuries. I don't know. I was never sold on Zaire Williams, to be honest.
No, certainly not on the offensive end, which is what people were so down on him for. He said he's not hitting the 3s. Well, I mean, that was really just a bonus. He was brought in as primarily to be a defender. That's the concern that you have. He wasn't guarding as well as he was the first year. But maybe he gets back to that. Like you said, could be injuries.
So, the names that we had heard to begin with, like Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, those guys are not coming for the mid-level. First of all, Bridges is the Nets are building around him. He's not going anywhere.
Correct.
The only way I see that you could get Anunoby would be you'd probably have to package Brooks with a sign-in trade, right? I don't know if these numbers work. I'm throwing this off the top of my head. I'm not a capologist. But it would have to be something like Brooks, a first-round draft choice for a future year, and the money's got to match in order to get him in.
I got to tell you, that's why I like Dylan Brooks, because the alternative is I don't think is better. Like it's not like you got Marcus Smart for Dylan Brooks. There is a scenario if all things are peachy keen at the end of the season and no one's angry at anybody else, where Dylan Brooks is on a team with Marcus Smart.
Here's the problem.
Money, probably.
It is. It's Brooks is a
He's going to make more
agent
money.
now.
Yeah, that's right.
He first of all, I don't think he's happy with the way this thing ended here.
I think you're right. And maybe that's vice versa. Maybe both ways.
Well, I agree it's both ways. But when he made the statements that he made and wouldn't back off of it and decided he was going to be a heel, the front office was clearly distancing themselves from him.
They were.
And he knew that too. And maybe it goes back a long way where he didn't really care about being here. I don't know.
Could be.
He certainly was getting minutes and playing time and production opportunities to get into the position he is, so he shouldn't be too PO'd. I don't think that people are going to miss him. I really don't.
Yeah, I know. But I think you're right. But from strictly an on-court perspective, his presence will be missed. Maybe also I know he took ill-advised shots a lot that people would groan and mumble about. But the thing he added on defense, people will certainly miss, I think. He was an excellent defensive player.
He was. It's funny, when it's pro basketball, I don't think people miss people like you think.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I'm going to tell you right now, like the first guy, maybe I'm overstating his position in Grizzlies lore or in Memphis sports DNA, but the first guy that kind of captured the fancy when they first got here was not Pau Gasol, who was clearly the best player. It was Shane Battier. And when Shane Battier left the first time, people were going, goodbye.
That's right. Remember
they did that poster night, which I was going, it's okay, when he was on the other team. And, they were up in arms about that. What a minor league team we are for doing that. Because, it was our first major league, and it was our first guy who might have been a star who left.
And they
probably made a mistake in doing it. But I don't think it's quite the same feel. Like,
you're right.
Like maybe at SMU when they were really on Kendrick Davis for leaving. With college, like if Memphis plays Arkansas, if they played them in FedEx Forum, and Chandler Lawson came in, I don't think he'd be treated all that well. I'll give you a good example. KJ Lawson, when he came back with Tulane, he was booed. And I remember talk shows talking about how awful that was. He's a college kid and all. Now they got NILs. I don't know if they're really, if you put it in the same kind of status. But some people were really upset that the fans booed KJ. And KJ was hurt. I remember that. On the post game, he made it known that really hurt him, that he was booed. In the NBA, you kind of expect that. I don't. Now,
especially a player as polarizing as Dylan Brooks is, certainly.
Right. And Dylan, well, this group said he's gone under any. He's not coming back under any circumstances. Tells you they don't want him.
That's right.
Right. So you really can't blame him, can you? Like Marcus Smart, he probably will be treated at least the first time he's back at the Boston Garden very nicely. Because he gave them everything he had.
I agree.
And it wasn't his decision to make. That was Brad Stevens and the Celtics brass. But I don't know that there is the same feeling, And I go back to Shane Battier. Now, let's see. Mike Conley was treated really nice when he came back.
He was.
So
Zach Randolph was treated well when he came back.
Yeah.
But that was, forgettable. The Kings stunk.
And all those guys were so past their prime, too.
That's right.
They really didn't hurt you.
No.
But if Marcus Smart goes for 40 and wins a game for the Grizzlies in the Garden, that's not going to sit well with them.
Probably not.
Crazy. But the Grizzlies need wing players. Conchar, Zaire Williams, David Roddy, Jake LaRavia. I don't see a championship with that group. Sorry. They got to get a mid-level exception. They got to make them. There's another move or two. And look, no one's saying they're winning this year, right? That Western Division is so crazy. Western Conference.
Tough.
So, but it's clear, it's identifiable when you look at the roster and you break it. Guards, bigs, wings, they're really good at guard. They're really good at big, I think. Good enough. They're not there at wing. They're not even close at wing. This portion of the show brought to you by Conway. Conway Services. You got a problem, they come out and get you. And I got to be honest with you. I try to be on these commercials. They take care of us. I'm a Comfort Club member, which means I get them in a hurry. And I have 2 units in my house. My bedroom sort of back of the house unit and my front of the house unit. My front of the house unit is fantastic. And thank God it worked really good last night because the back of the house went out. So we call early this morning and sometime between 10 and 2, they could be there right now. They're at my house because we got a problem. You're a Comfort Club member. They're going to take care of you. 384-3511. We got the tune-up, so even that didn't prevent this. But this heat is pretty something special, right? And some poor people, I shouldn't stress my issues because I got at least half a cool house. Some people with no power still, I think we're in the 60,000 range still. I really feel for those folks for sure. But 384-3511, Conway always seems to come to the rescue. Our title sponsor, well, that's Homer. Homer Skelton Hyundai in Olive Branch. You know, they got a really nice used car area too. Used to be Ray Melton. They've got a new person in. They take care of you. They buy the best of cars. They make sure they're fixed up a little bit. They don't kill you on that price increase. And then they give you a car that you know will be dependable. Used cars there, unreal. Product, Hyundais. And, of course, those Genesis cars. And not every Genesis or Hyundai dealership, I should say, is allowed to sell Genesis. But they are at Homer Skelton Hyundai. That's at Lamar, Highway 78, and the first exit in Mississippi Craft Road. Turn left. Go see Chris True. Go see a team that's been there for a long, long time. They take care of you at Homer Skelton Hyundai. Back in a minute. This will be fun. For the first time, we will chat with Tim Buckley from the Daily Memphian. He comes your way next.
We are real sports talk. Sports 56 WHBQ. Available on your radio dial at 560 AM and 98.5 FM, as well as around the world online at sports56whbq.com. Take us with you everywhere by downloading the Sports 56 app. And at home, just say, Alexa, play Sports 56. Wherever you are, stay tuned in to Real Sports Talk. Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
I have so many people tell me they hear my ads on this station and that they want to know if I'm really as bad a golfer as everyone says. This is Sheldon Rosengarten with Marks Bensdorf Realtors, and yes, I hate to say I am. I wish I were in my 90s because I could then tell people I shoot my age. But being a bad golfer is not terrible because I devote so much of my time to selling homes to keep my clients happy. Over the many years in the real estate business, I developed a highly successful strategic marketing program, not merely a listing program. Using preparation, presentation, and proper pricing, it works. If you're thinking of selling, talk to 2 to 3 real estate brokers and make sure that I am one of them. Find out why people often say that when you want the job done, call Shell Dunn. That's Shell Dunn Rosengarten, 483-0546 or memphisrelocate.com. Do it now. Shell Dunn, 483-0546 or memphisrelocate.com.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Washed and waxed?
Check.
Gassed up?
Got it. What about that check engine light? You know you gotta treat your car right.
I know.
Then you should know about the free AutoZone Fix Finder service. Head on over to AutoZone, get your engine light checked, and get a report for free. Don't even take a minute.
Free AutoZone Fix Finder service.
Your car will thank you, and then you can thank me.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
At Jason's Deli, when you're dining in or picking up curbside, you can expect wholesome food and no surprises, just delicious sandwiches, crisp salads, and quick quality meals made with the freshest ingredients and no artificial trans fats, MSG, high fructose corn syrup, or artificial colors and dyes. Around here, a lot of thought goes into what we put into our food and what we take out of it, because you're not just taking a bite, you're getting a taste of who we are. New items are constantly being created to expand our menu for all tastes and special diets with vegan and gluten-free options available. Convenience and on-time delivery you can count on. It's just a click away at jasonsdeli.com, so whether you need to feed 5 people or 5,000, the team at Jason's Deli, they have the credentials and the commitment to keep you satisfied. Freshness is nearby at Jason's Deli with locations at Ridgeway in the Park Place Center, Poplar and Highland, Germantown Road in Cordova, and on Goodman Road in Olive Branch. Jason's Deli. It's wholesome food and no surprises.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM, presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Welcome back in the Family Leisure Studios. A reminder, I think they got a 4th of July sale that might be getting hot and heavy. Head on over to I-40 and Witten Road. Go see the folks where family and fun come together. It's the 4th of July sale with so much in stock when it comes to spas, when it comes to backyard adventures with play gyms and things of that nature. Good prices now at Family Leisure. We have not yet talked to a Memphian who came back a bit ago, works for the Daily Memphian. Tim Buckley went to Christian Brothers High School, then to Missouri, worked in Louisiana, in Utah, in the Tampa Bay area, in Florida, in West Texas. Quite a winding road. Tim Buckley, what brought you back to Memphis? Why did you choose to return home? Good morning.
The call came and I answered.
There you go.
Yeah, it was perfect time, and I had spent about 10, 12 years down in Louisiana covering the Raging Cajuns, and I actually had just moved over to Baton Rouge and was working as the editor of a magazine covering LSU sports down there, and all of a sudden this opportunity came up, and let's just say it was the perfect timing for a whole lot of reasons and a total no-brainer. And I've loved being back into town, running into people who either I've kept up with regularly for 40-some years or who I hadn't seen in 40 years. But you run into them, whether you're in Walmart or somewhere else out and about in town, and it's just been awesome.
So you can return home again, apparently. According to Tim Buckley. A tough question for you right off the bat. Better food, Baton Rouge or where the Raging Cajuns are, Lafayette, Louisiana?
Well, I don't eat seafood. So
you don't
I'm going to go.
Oh, my gosh.
I know. Imagine that.
That's a waste of all those years in Louisiana.
Oh, I missed out on so much. But looking on the bright side, I didn't have to suck the head off of any crawfish, which is a regular thing down there in Cajun country. But I missed the gumbo. I missed the jambalaya. But for my needs, some Memphis eating is just fine. Thank you.
Memphis used to play the Raging Cajuns. I remember going down there some crazy times, like the lights go out unexpectedly one time. But the Préjeans in Lafayette, oh my God, did I ever love that place. Did you? I always tell people it's really not the place that you go to, because I've lived in several areas of the country. It's always the people. But did you have a favorite place between all these stops along the road?
Not that I didn't like any of them, but I loved Utah. The geography was just unbelievable. The mountains, having the opportunity to go to like 7 different ski resorts within less than 40 minutes from where I lived. The people were super. I enjoyed covering the team that I did. I covered a Jerry Sloan Utah Jazz team.
Oh, that had to be fun.
All sorts of incredible storylines between Stockton and Malone, and the transition from those two. The good times and a lot of the bad times. The Darren Williams and Carlos Boozer era, and all of that. That was a beautiful place, and it was crazy times at the end. In the sad world that journalism has become, they laid off 42% of our staff on the same day.
Wow.
And so sadly I had to leave that behind, but it opened up all sorts of nice and new opportunities.
I've always been an admirer of Jerry Sloan. He was from a little town in southern Illinois, not far from where I went to school in Carbondale. And he was a great player with the Chicago Bulls. He and Norman Van Leer were a great backcourt. And then I've always thought he was really underappreciated maybe as a head coach, because he won a lot of games in the NBA.
Well, he was, and he did, and much like Stockton and Malone, because he didn't win the big one, there's this, whether it's perceived or real or whatever, there's this knock against you. But he coached with the same tenacity that he played. He was, we used to just laugh at some of the things he did. He would pull literally like call a timeout in the middle of a play and pull out a rookie, whether it was Quincy Lewis or Scott Padgett, because the kid didn't have his shirt tucked in. He would he'd by the same token he'd watch Stockton Malone run the pick and roll, and it didn't work, and his only thing, he would just stand there and just yell again until it worked. And it was so funny. Stockton would look over at him to call something. Stockton didn't have to look over for anything. Stockton ran the offense, but he always looked over to Sloan. Sloan would call C, pick and roll. It either worked or he called again. But for all of the gruff in him and as hot-headed as he was sometimes and salty with the language as he was often on the sidelines, he was just another guy, a farm country kid from southern Illinois. Like you said, I remember he knew that I would drive back in the off season from Utah to Memphis. And he even knew that we basically stopped off the interstate to break up the trip and stayed at the same Super 8, which is in Kansas, which is really bizarre. But anyway, he would tell me, stop by the farm sometime. And I took him up on it one time, and we went to the farm, or I went to the farm in McLeansboro. His first wife at the time, Bobby Sloan, who passed away from cancer, was off at a doctor's appointment, but he was at home. He gave me the grand tour. It was time to go to lunch. I figured we'd go into town to the to the diner in town, meet some of his buddies who used to come out to Utah or something. But instead, he was in the kitchen. He reached into his refrigerator. He turned around. He slapped two things down on the counter, and he said, "Ham or turkey?" That was Jerry Sloan.
Wow, love that. You've been around long enough to see the NBA from that era to this era. You do some stuff with the Grizzlies now in your job details with the Daily Memphian. How much has it changed?
It's a totally different world. But by the same token, Utah was a different world compared to the NBA when I was there, because Stockton and Malone ran that team. What they said happened. Guys didn't miss games because of injury. Guys didn't take off games for
load management,
pain management, load management, whatever. Oh my God, those guys would have just had a conniption if anybody tried to pull that nonsense. And the other guys knew that John and Carl listened to Jerry, and Jerry listened to John and Carl, and that's just the way it was. You don't see that in the NBA anymore. It was a totally different era back then, and a totally different era compared to what it is now. Some of the nonsense that goes on, it would not have happened. Yeah, by the same token, for as much problems as the Grizzlies have had, with John, even at the end of the playoffs with Dylan Brooks poking the bear and all of that stuff, the Grizzlies organization is run in similar fashion from the top on down as the Jazz were, and of course, as the San Antonio Spurs were, because of the Popovich influence with Taylor Jenkins, and even one of the Grizzlies assistant coaches is a nephew by marriage of Jerry Sloan. I mean, who came up in the Jazz organization. There's some things here that you kind of see elements of, but it's a totally different world.
You've been doing a lot. You're the transfer portal checker for Memphis football, which I read religiously because you really are keeping up fantastically with it. So give me what you think Ryan Silverfield has been able to accomplish. Has this been a good year in the portal? You lost a big defensive lineman who was really a good player, and you lost a tight end who was really a good player, but it seems like you got a bunch back, including in the defensive backfield. Give me how you might grade out the Tigers portal.
Well, it's so hard to read because there's a reason all those guys are leaving the programs where they were. Some of them are leaving after very successful years. Some of them are leaving after a coaching change. Some of them are leaving after an issue of some sort or another. Some of them are leaving. They come in with all these great credentials, but the fact is they never saw the field at whatever Power 5 program that they're at. I think they loaded up real well, especially in the defensive secondary. I think that was an issue of need, and I think they addressed a lot of the needs back there with some experienced guys who are coming in not because they didn't play elsewhere, but because of an opportunity. And I think that's where you're going to see the most improvement out of the portal. The rest of it is just wait and see if these guys can deliver on their credentials, in some cases from 3 or 4 years prior.
What do you think are fair expectations for Ryan Silverfield's team?
Well, it's a totally different league. Obviously, with Houston, Cincinnati, and Central Florida being gone. But if you're not contending in the top 3, I think that's a totally realistic expectation. And if you're not contending to play in the conference championship game at the end of the season, you're not doing something right, especially considering all that was lost from the conference.
I'm with you there. I see some really good things. Since you mentioned leagues, you've done plenty of stories now on conference, what I call conference craziness, which in my mind is an evolutionary thing. It never stops. And there are plenty of rumors that we could see more of that beginning this week with Pac-12 media rights being decided upon and everything else. What are you hearing about conference craziness and anything maybe this week?
Well, certainly the expectation was there's a high likelihood that the dominoes would start falling by the end of this month because of the TV contract stuff. None of it can get done until everybody knows what the TV contracts are, and then they make their decisions on where they're going to go or not going to go. It's been terrifically quiet out of the Memphis camp. I know there was that report a few weeks ago about the meeting that several people claimed did not take place, and other people are absolutely insistent did take place. Every indication that we got is that there was something that happened in terms of a visit of some sort, maybe out of the original report, which actually was out of Louisiana. Maybe some of those exact details, precise details in terms of who was there and where they went or didn't go weren't totally spot on, but the sum and substance of it, I think there was certainly validity to it. But all that being said, it sure seems like, Memphis is on the B list or the C list, and they just got to wait and see what happens on several other fronts, including who might be moving or not moving out of the Pac-12 into the Big 12, where the Big 12 would turn if there's options. They're not option A, they're not option B, they're not option C. How far down in the alphabet they are, we won't truly know until it all shakes out. But for everyone's sake, I sure hope we know before there's fireworks.
The best scenario is the Arizona schools stay in the Pac-12. Is that what needs to happen? Maybe Colorado goes. They got to find somebody else. What do you think is the right formula for that long shot option to occur?
Well, you can look at it a couple different ways. I think the best is that the Pac-12 stays intact, and then the Big 12 decides to go by 4. You can argue that San Diego State, if they were to go to the Pac-12, that creates an opening. But you can also argue that if San Diego State ends up going to the Big 12 instead of the Pac-12, it's because the Pac-12 stayed intact. And so there might be more opportunities that way, because if the two Pac-12 teams go, it decreases the likelihood that a Memphis goes in. So it's a matter of perspective. You can argue it either way. It doesn't help the Tigers that apparently the Big 12 setup is if it's a Power 5 school that comes in, they get a full share of the new TV contract, right. And that's not the case for a Group of 5 program like Memphis. Do you negotiate some sort of reduced share agreement or something like that? I suppose that's a possibility. Does the Big 12 offer a full share to a particular Group of 5 program and not offer it to another? Does that impact the Tigers? A lot of wait and see, a lot of moving pieces, a lot of what ifs in there.
No doubt. Hey, it's fun talking with you, Tim. We'll do it again sometime soon, I hope. I appreciate it, and have a great 4th of July.
All right. Sounds good. My pleasure. Take care.
You too. That's Tim Buckley from the Daily Memphian. He's brought to you in part by Ken Garland. Ken Garland, Custom Home Builders. Ken, look, he's been in the business all his life. His dad started the company about 60 years ago. He's been a big part of it throughout his entire life. And he just knows the business from renovation. I like to call it renovation with innovation, because he's going to bring every modern amenity into the home you don't want to leave. It feels like it's the right place. You love the location, your yard, all those memories. You don't want to go, but you want the California closets, and you want the island in the kitchen. You want the media room. He can do that for you. If you're looking for land, he's got it. Maybe you've got land in your family. Finally, you want to build that dream house. You're not sure how to utilize the land. I tell you, he knows. Go to kengarland.com, see what I'm talking about, and then call 751-1632, 751-1632. Here's the cool thing about Ken. He sees little details, big picture, and loves to talk to you about it. I mean, he will talk with you and really make you feel assured that it's all going to work out fantastically. Look, he works with his clients very closely, and he gives you this: quality construction, on time, on budget. 2 generations, Ken Garland, Custom Home Builders. Back in a minute, we'll talk some baseball with our guy. That's Tim Doolin. He comes your way next.
Add a little fun to your lunch break. Join Johnny Radio for Sports 56 Happy Hour from 11 to 1 every weekday on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Hi, folks. Good news from the Chevy Sheriff for truck buyers. It's truck month at the Sunrise Chevy Ranch. Rebates up to $2,000 and discounts high as $7,000. Bankrupt, slow pay, bad credit? It's okay. Sunrise specializes in secondary financing. Need a good used truck? Remember, Sunrise Chevy specializes in used cars and trucks under $15,000. Chevy trucks cost less at the Sunrise Chevy Ranch, partner. Find new roads to 385 in Houston, Levy, and Collierville. Check out the all-new Sunrise Truck Corral. Huge selection of nothing but trucks. All makes, all models, all prices, all trucks, all the time. Next to Sunrise Wolf Chase.
Ray Magliozzi here for eBay Motors. You're driving along and some nimrod cuts you off. You hit the horn. Jeez, it sounds like a goose in distress. Time to head over to eBay Motors. They have horns for every make and model, not to mention horn pads, steering wheels, wiring, and more. 122 million parts. You can even go for an upgrade. Looks like Mr. Cutoff Man needs a new seat cover. Try eBay Motors, pal. Get the right parts at the right prices. eBay Motors. Let's ride.
Visit Frontier Western Store today for new shirts and boots. Frontier is your top Carhartt store in the Mid-South. There's thousands of in-stock shirts and jeans. They have the classic K87 pocket tee in every color they make, including new ones just released. Available small to 4X. Want new jeans? Frontier has you covered with super tough work denim by Carhartt. And you've got to check out their selection of Ariat jeans for men, women, and children. You'll love how easy it is to find the size and style you need. Have you seen Frontier's remodeled world-famous boot showroom? It continues to expand. New styles by Ariat just arrived, plus plenty of in-stock proven classics too. Whether you need work or dress boots, trust that Frontier's the place to come. See thousands of pairs of Ariat boots and thousands more by Dan Post, Corral, Durango, Rocky, Twisted X, and others. And Frontier's pricing is lower than online and chain stores, so you know just the local shop to visit. Frontier Western Store, 5880 Goodman Road in Olive Branch, and on the web at frontierwesternstore.com. Locally owned and operated since 1967.
Hi, this is Lauren Choate with Choate's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Plumbing. Now that the warmer weather has arrived, let Choate's perform their $99 20-point AC tune-up to get your AC ready for the hot summer months ahead. Also, Choate's is offering our half-off 1 pound of Freon coupon on our website for you to use. Does your HVAC system need to be replaced? If so, right now is an excellent time to take advantage of Carrier's 60 months, no-interest financing on select systems. Want to improve your indoor air quality? Choate's is also offering our new ABCO air purifier for $100 off when you get your air ducts cleaned. UV technology sterilizes biological contaminants and neutralizes odors and toxic VOCs. Match that technology with getting your air ducts cleaned, and you'll have the indoor air quality your family needs. Better call 347-8086 today. These specials won't last long. Turn to the experts with Choate's and let our family serve your family.
Now, back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM, presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
The reviews are coming in. They're raving about the new Pine Hill. Raving! It's gorgeous. If you were a longtime Pine Hill player, you appreciate how, for the most part, most of the holes that they preserved still keep the character. Like the old 7 is now 10. It's a par 5 instead of a par 4, but they added length. It's still a really difficult hole. Same green on that little hill. I mean, fantastic. Kept the tradition. But then there's the new holes, like 9, with over a lake on your third shot on the par 5. Gorgeous. I mean, so many beautiful holes. You'll just be astounded. Everybody that's played it, and I had talked about it, they just rave about it. It's really something. You know, we got Audubon coming. I got to be honest with you, I played Fox Meadows over the week. They got that in great shape. Man, Memphis Golf. If you haven't played a Memphis public golf course, you don't know what you are missing. We talk baseball every Tuesday with our friend Tim Doolin. And I got to ask you, Tim, right off the bat here, and I was thinking about this. I'm not sure I've ever seen a team more impacted by the new NIL, the new money rules, than maybe this LSU team that had all these transfers, getting a whole bunch of NIL. Their coach, Jay Johnson, not even shying away from it, just saying, hey, you come, we'll make sure you're taken care of. And then they go and win their 7th national title last night. That was impressive to come back in a 24-hour period, losing 24-4, and then wiping up Florida 18-4. Crazy.
No, it really was, Wolo, and it's you know, the times are changing, and they basically what you have is for the last several years, we all know how powerful the SEC is in all sports. Obviously, it's the best baseball conference in the country, as you saw last night, with 2 of the top SEC teams playing in the national championship. So I think what's interesting is that the Major League Baseball a couple of years ago reduced the number of minor league teams because they saw that not only from a development standpoint, but from a business perspective, is they're able to utilize the likes of the SEC and in some cases the Big 12 as their minor leagues. And so the next step was we're basically seeing the minor leagues in the SEC where players are getting paid. And in most instances, they're getting paid more than the minor league players are getting paid.
What do you think LSU's NIL budget was? Seriously.
Oh, my gosh. It's probably over $1 million. In excess of it. In excess of $1 million, I can assure you. And it's going to get bigger.
Here's the craziest thing that I think about, right? So I don't know if it was cost-cutting or why the NCAA put up the number 11.7 scholarships for a team. Now, who cares about that 11.7? Because you can go to a guy, hey, I'm not giving you a scholarship, but here's $200,000, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. So I think the 11.7 years ago was because of Title IX, and they had to balance it out. But at the end of the day, the bottom line is it's here. It's not going away. I'd like to see some changes made. And we'll see if they do, because I will tell you this: it's not going away. It's not going to be smaller. It's going to get bigger.
I'm curious the dominance the SEC has. Can we trace that to the money? Here's what we've got: 9 titles for the SEC in 14 years, with 6 different schools who have won a championship since 2009. They have won 4 in a row, starting with Vandy, then the 2 Mississippi schools, and then LSU last night. And Florida could have been in that mix. One of them was going to win. What's it from?
Well, I mean, I think it's just we look over the years. I mean, for the longest time, Wolo, it was like the SEC not only had the best athletes, the best facilities, and they continue to upgrade those facilities. Well, now everyone has nice facilities. So what's the next step? The NIL shows up, and the boosters say, we want to win, and what's it going to take? And you had the New York Yankees, playing last night, and they were playing against, another major league team that has a big market, and LSU definitely took care of business last night, and it's not going to slow down.
Talent-wise, would you say the SEC is what, single A, high single A, even as high as double A?
Well, I think typically we've talked about this before. On a Friday night in the SEC, you're looking at probably a double A arm. In some instances, maybe a high A, but in the likes of Paul Skeens from LSU, this guy's going to he'll be in the big leagues by the end of the year. This guy's throwing 100 miles an hour. I've never seen a pitcher do the things he's done in college baseball, and he's going to be in the big leagues. I would be shocked if he's not in the big leagues this year. But and then on Saturday you're facing a guy that's in a high A type of pitcher. Sunday it drops off quite a bit, but nonetheless it's very, very competitive. And I can tell you all the major league teams set the bar of evaluating players in this upcoming draft and all the drafts based on the barometer and the results that players put up in the SEC.
Well, Memphis had a coach that went to the SEC, Carrick Jackson, to Missouri. The replacement is a guy named Matt Reiser, who took his teams from the Sun Belt to 4 NCAA tournaments and was 500 this year and let go. But in his press conference, which was pretty dynamic, he said he plans to make Memphis have a national prominence within 5 years. Your take on your alma mater hiring Matt Reiser?
To be honest with you, I was kind of disappointed because I think that people look at the Memphis job as maybe a good job, but it's just another stepping stone for guys like Matt Reiser. I don't blame Carrick Jackson. I don't blame Matt Reiser for taking this job. The bottom line is Carrick Jackson was here a year. We're right back in it looking again. If Matt Reiser has any success at all, he's going to parlay that into the next job. And I think Memphis had an opportunity to hire a very seasoned veteran guy that has put up unbelievable track record of coaching, and that guy was backed by several boosters. There were several players that were in the portal that we have relationships with that were willing to come in. And if you look at what Oral Roberts did, Oral Roberts goes to the College World Series with 14 portal players. So you can become relevant really, really fast in baseball. And, we went out and hired a guy that is kind of, to me, a sideways hire. He was 25 and 25 this past year and gets let go for whatever reason. He got let go, and he might have energy, but he's going to be using that energy to build a program. But he's going to be looking to leave this program, and so that's the frustrating part. Not just for me, but several guys that I've talked to, boosters, alumni, former players. I just don't know that the administration really understands our space and what it looks like on a day-to-day basis, and I live it. So
what about what about Matt Reiser getting those guys that were set to come in the portal?
Well, I mean, he's got to be able to sell those guys. It's not going to be me, and so we'll see. The results are going to be because we're right in the middle of portal season, and there are players in the portal. So it'll be interesting to see what he's able to attract and bring in here.
He's our guy on baseball, Tim Doolin. Hey, we got the 4th of July next week, so we will not be here. You got a week off, but we will reconvene in 2 weeks. Thank you, my friend. Happy 4th of July.
All right, Wolo, thank you.
That is our friend on baseball. That is Tim Doolin. He's brought to you by the Eflin Insurance Team. There's another Tiger lover. Oh, yeah. Matt Eflin loves the Tigers. That's why in his business phone number, it's 901-386 GRR for Tigers Roar, 4777 to be exact. 901-386-4777 if you're looking to protect your family, whether it's life insurance, whether it's a home program, auto insurance. He gets to know you, sits down, chats with you, finds out what your family is all about, finds out what your budget is, puts it all together and protects you and looks at you as a very important asset. Then there's small to mid-sized businesses. He's got commercial insurance for you. That's his specialty. He'll know your product, your employees, what your future looks like, what your budget is, and then he protects you. Again, that number to get insurance the right way, the collaborative way. Call 901-386-GRR. That's the Eflin Insurance Team. Golf picks tomorrow and a whole lot more. Johnny Radio is next. Have a great day, everybody.
The Kia Summer Sales Event is on at